Hi, welcome to Supes On, a podcast where we review the family of steel in all forms of media and decide whether a particular story or episode was Supes On or Supes Off. Tonight we'll be talking about Supergirl Season 2, Episode 3, Welcome to Earth. And just keep in mind that we may be spoiling some things, not just about this episode,
but almost everything entirely in the history of the world, including all CW shows and all previous Superman and Supergirl related stories.
and possibly other shows not on the CW. We will spoil everything. But anyway, enough about that. Why don't we go ahead and join our host, myself, Jeremy Bruner, and my co-host,
John McBride.
two amateur Superman experts coming at you.
All right, let's get started with a new episode of Supes On Podcast, reviewing the latest episode of Supergirl on the CW. This is an instant take, recording right after the show went off the air. And of course, if you want to catch all of our old reviews, you can go to supesonpodcast.com. And I've been doing some live tweeting tonight at Supes On Podcast on the Twitter. You kind of get an idea of what I thought about it. Jeremy, what did you think about tonight's episode?
Well, I thought overall it was entertaining. I did think that I liked Linda Carter as a guest star. That was nice.
Well, I will say I liked her as a guest star, and she was interesting. But as I mentioned to you during the episode, we can kind of see why Linda Carter hasn't gotten steady acting work since Wonder Woman.
I do feel like she might have been like, thank God I played Wonder Woman. It still gets me parts every now and then.
Right, every now and again she'll get the nostalgia part. We even saw a nice little Wonder Woman homage with Kara spinning around to put out the fire. Very cool. She says, you haven't seen my other jet. And you wouldn't because it's invisible.
I get it. It's a joke about Wonder Woman.
Yes.
So, so one thing that I feel like I learned this episode is that the DEO is very inefficient and not good at their jobs. And the first take on this is not the obvious one. The first take on this is it's the day the president is landing, and they're telling Supergirl they're expecting her to go meet the president that day. That's not something you could have talked about in advance, so she would know, hey, on Thursday I'm going to be meeting the president, giving her some time to actually compose herself, prepare herself.
Maybe it was a spur-of-the-moment history-making speech she was going to do.
That everybody was very well informed on.
And actually, maybe they weren't informed because, as a Twitterer pointed out to me, that was a very small gathering.
It was a very small gathering after the attack. Maybe, because, I mean, to be fair, I don't know that I would go to hey, the last time the president was in public, someone tried to kill her with crazy fireballs. Hey, you know what? I'm going to go check out her speech today.
You know what? If I lived in this Earth, I wouldn't leave the house at any time. There's danger around every corner.
Which we'll probably get to see a little bit of in that new show, Powerless, whenever that starts.
You know, it really feels like that show has already started.
It feels like it's already been canceled.
Is it like a web series?
No, it's a new NBC comedy. It starts in January.
It starts in January, man. Well, I don't focus on shows that aren't on the CW.
That's true. That's true. He's never actually watched a TV network other than the CW, other than WB and UPN before they merged.
They tell me there was a show before Buffy. I just don't believe it.
It was the first. So,
talk about the first, the villain, the first.
I am referencing season 7 and technically season 3.
Yeah, there you go.
So the one thing toward the beginning also, so we had some new character introductions. We already talked about the president, which based off the ending, which we'll get to, it does seem like she's probably going to be reoccurring at least a little bit.
Which is, more good news for Linda Carter.
Yeah.
Honestly.
We also had our first introduction to Maggie Sawyer.
Maggie Sawyer, and it was really cool that, it's kismet that I just read a bunch of Batman Eternal issues.
What is that, a comic, you loser?
I was reading it so I could properly mock a nerd by referencing my stuff. I want to not sound like a dummy. I want him to get it. But, yeah, and Maggie Sawyer is just one of the many characters who appear in this. I'm thinking, you got like a Gothamite appearing, which I assume, but...
I think she was always a Metropolis cop. I know I recognize her from either the animated show or the comics.
Well, if it weren't for me happened to just have read some Batman Eternal issues today, I would not know who the heck she is. I probably would have thought, is that Magpie or something? Either way, very cool little inclusion there of Maggie Sawyer, who looks like she's going to stick around, I would think.
Yeah, it sort of seems to me almost, I don't know if this is a thing if or not, but it almost seems to me like they're trying to build her up as a love interest for Alex.
Alex, well, I don't know. Maybe Max Lord turned her to the other team. It was so bad that hell, Max went into hiding. That's how bad his...
that date was. He not only went into hiding, he's no longer talked about by anybody.
Which is still forever going to be strange to me. It's like, good grief. But hey, like we said on previous episode, Flashpoint.
Yeah.
End of story.
Exactly. So so the whole plot of this episode was the president was going to sign an alien amnesty deal to give aliens the rights of American citizens, and there were people trying to kill her to stop her, and we just basically saw a whole bunch of racism sort of political stances that were raised.
Xenophobia.
Exactly. And the one thing that I feel was not properly done. So Martian Manhunter disagrees. It's like everybody that disagreed with the Alien Amnesty Act, not everybody, there was a couple of outliers, but almost everybody who disagreed with it were aliens. Like, no, don't give us amnesty.
Yeah, you would think like they're trying to help you. And you mentioned one of the things I thought you were going to mention when you said the DEO is bad at their jobs. There is this alien dive bar that they don't know about.
The Buffy Demon Bar 2.0.
And, you know, we were thinking throughout this episode, full disclosure, we weren't too excited about it.
Yeah, we felt that, especially after, we felt that whenever Tyler Hoechlin left, that you needed to have a really strong episode out of the gate to say, look, we don't need Supergirl and Superman in the show. It's fine without them.
Right, like this is, I mean, you could argue that maybe this is the whole point of, if not the series, this season, is Supergirl is her own character.
Right.
One of the things we wanted to discuss as the whole point of this particular podcast, when we started to review Supergirl, is Supergirl her own woman.
Right.
And in this, we're going to prove that she doesn't need her cool cousin around. And man, the second Cal left, we went to Snoozeville.
It wasn't the most intense or exciting episode for...
And this included attacks on the president and the new characters. We were so bored.
Yeah. There was some very... it was definitely a low episode, at least for me.
Maybe we've just been spoiled by previous episodes, and it's kind of like on like The Flash or something. We'll get to a CW recap later, but the worst, like a bad Flash episode is still better than most of television that's on the air right now, in my opinion.
Right.
But still, the fact remains, not up to snuff.
Right. I agree with that.
And now Superman's gone. This is not the episode you go with as soon as Kal-El leaves.
Right. I will say one of the biggest flaws of this episode, not enough Win.
Yeah, like maybe a collection or a
like
total.
2 little scenes.
Was that even like 2 minutes?
Nope.
See, this is why this episode suffered. People watch this show for Win.
Yeah.
Jeremy Jordan, if you're listening, and I know you are, you know, just we appreciate you, man. We want Win. We have WWW t-shirts or whatever.
Yeah, we got what would Win do? WWWD.
Just you kind of get lost. Just start saying W's.
Yeah.
Like WWW.
I will say so one of the things that's happening this episode on the Kara Danvers side is, you know, she's gonna go be a reporter, and we have James as sort of running Catco for the first time. And in his first little meeting, Snapper kind of takes over and assigns everybody to specific articles and things. And there's several bits of hypocrisy with Snapper's character in this episode. So in the very first scene, he says, we don't come up with headlines before we get the story. Then he starts assigning people stories, and this is how he assigns them. Rather than saying, hey, you go to the CDC to find out what they think, you know, about the, you know, more aliens coming to Earth. He says, hey, you go to the CDC to find out what sort of viruses and things these aliens are bringing. A very, like, already sort of have the headline and a very biased news take.
What's up with Jimmy? I think part of me is like, I kind of agree. Like, I don't know. It's like when it comes to James, I'm like, you better become Guardian fast, because I don't really have a lot invested in James at this point.
I'm going to play devil's advocate on that. And I'm going to say I think Jimmy was the best part of this episode. But it's because I've written my own entire backstory for this Jimmy character that we don't know is true. So in my eyes, he started out as just like an intern at the Daily Planet working with Clark and Lois, and just this sort of little nobody. He got a couple good pictures of Superman, was able to become a photographer. He maybe even got to be a little cub reporter, write a story here or there. Got to study under Lois and Clark. Sort of built himself up as this sort of professional newsman, goes to National City where he's head of photography and does that for a year, and now he's moving up as an editor-in-chief. Like, he's now the equivalent where Perry White is. He's now surpassed his mentors of Clark and Lois. To me, this was a huge moment for Jimmy.
I mean, it's a big power move for James. It really is. He put Snapper in his place.
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually.
After, and it was interesting to see, we didn't have Callista Flockhart, and I feel she was definitely missed.
Sorely missed.
Sorely missed. We had Kara give a sort of motivational speech to James. That was sort of I felt like that was the Callista speech.
Well, I really feel it's just convenient character placement as far as the writers go. Like, let's see. Well, it just kind of moving some parts around. Jimmy will just fill this slot.
Yeah.
And it's not too unbelievable that Jimmy would get this spot. So, all right, there you go.
Right.
But I'm still like waiting for Guardian. That's what I'm doing.
We also had MonEl become revealed in this episode, or continuing from the last episode.
What was hilarious is that we got the man in the pod, and we said we wouldn't spoil who it was, even though we kind of already knew.
Yeah.
And so we finally get it. He says his name, MonEl. We thought it was him terrorizing the president. Wasn't him.
Did we really think that?
No,
not even for a minute.
Yeah, it turns out to be this other fire alien lady who I don't really know the name of.
Yeah, and I tried to look it up on IMDb to see what the character's name was, to see who it was supposed to be. Because she could make fireballs appear in her hand, throw them, light herself on fire, shoot laser, heat vision. I was like, is this a known character?
With the wealth of resources and different characters when you have over at the DC Who's Who, you kind of just make up somebody. I guess you can. There's nothing stopping.
Well, maybe they didn't. Let us know. Tell us, hey, you guys are idiots. This is obviously so-and-so.
Yeah, if you think we were not the Supergirl experts we claim to be, email us, supesonpodcast@gmail.com. Send pictures.
Yes. So I would say that the one thing that I was kind of... This is my comic book nerd rant.
Okay.
I hate that his name is MonEl.
Well, okay, I'm going to let you go on your rant. I'm going to let you pull a Kanye. I'm going to let you finish. Here's the thing. Okay, so he's from Daxam. He's a Daxamite.
Yeah.
Sister planet, similar powers to Kryptonians.
Yeah.
The planet became a wasteland because, Krypton exploded, so Daxam isn't going to be treated too nicely in that. So they're both orphans, right?
Yeah.
So and of course Daxamites and Kryptonians don't get along, so Kara and MonEl, they have this moment where they kind of bond or whatever.
Right.
And he says, my name's MonEl.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm waiting for Kara to go, from the House of El? Nope. He's just MonEl. Okay.
Well, that's because his name shouldn't be MonEl. This is my comic book rant. MonEl's name is Largan. And MonEl came from his origin when he first appeared in Superboy, and he had amnesia. But because he had all the same powers as Clark named him MonEl, El after his own family, and here's your fun fact and stat, Mon, because he happened to land on a Monday. And so he was MonEl, and he thought he was a Kryptonian. He thought, man, this is awesome. And then it was only later when they realized, so in the comics, Daxamites are weak against lead. Lead is their equivalent of kryptonite. And when he realized that, he realized, oh no, you're not. That gave him his memory back, and he's like, no, I'm not from Krypton, I'm from Daxam. And they put him in the Phantom Zone, and where Clark proceeded to forget about him for like 1,000 years until he freed him in the 31st century for the Legion of Superheroes. But regardless, the only thing that I care about is his name isn't Mon-El. That's too much of a coincidence for just a random L dash L.
Right, like you chose the name House of L for whatever reason. I don't know. It's like you're on Daxam. It's not weird on Daxam, I guess. Here's the thing: when they say Daxamites have weakness to lead,
yeah.
So does this mean he can't drink lead paint? You hit him in the head with a lead pipe?
Yeah, like no, even just being around lead. Like if you had a lead pipe and you were as close as we are now, which is very close, you would be weakened.
That reminds me of Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern. He had like
weakness to wood.
To wood. So if he's in a forest, he's powerless.
It wasn't that he was weak against wood; it was his ring couldn't affect wood.
So just throw a pencil at him, and you're good.
And especially if it's a yellow one, since later they made it be a color yellow.
Or with a lead pencil, you can take out Alan Scott and Mon-El at the same time.
Oh man, you'd have to get an old pencil because now they're made of graphite.
Because of Mon-El.
Because of all the Daxamites on Earth.
All the Daxamites pressure the...
Well, we don't even know that Mon-El and the Supergirl will have a weakness to lead, because lead is so common that would be very hard for them to write out.
I mean, some of these weaknesses are like, because you have Superman, he had kryptonite, so it's
right.
like everybody has to have like a weakness.
Right.
I feel like the other weaknesses aren't really too specific, like Martian Manhunter and fire. I guess he has a phobia, but I'm like, I don't want to get burned up either. Does that mean I'm a Martian?
You're a Martian?
If you hit me in the head with a lead pipe, I'm going to get knocked out, so I must be a Daxamite.
But you could hold a lead pipe.
I got you lead pipe right here, pal. We are sitting way too close to be saying that. So one quick thing where Alex she had her cool when she was meeting with Maggie Sawyer after the first attack on the president. She didn't want to reveal her DEO badge. She has this cool, like, instead of just switching out the card,
yeah,
she has like, it'll just magically change with the DEO powers. I was really hoping she got it wrong. It was like a Costco card or something like that.
That was another proof of the DEO being inefficient. If you have a card like that, the DEO isn't supposed to exist. Its default shouldn't be DEO. Its default should be something that does exist.
Yeah, inefficient powers used for the DEO. Meanwhile, Wynn in his short screen time was killing it. He categorized his foreign language, alien language.
Oh man, Wynn, Jeremy Jordan, every scene you're in, you're stealing.
You're stealing it. Let's see.
Oh, another president self-hating alien. The random guy at the bar, kind of in the trench coat, the kind of creepy guy, when they talk about the president, he's like, not my president. Like, why do all these aliens hate the president that's trying to help them and give them rights? It's never sufficiently explained. It's a major weakness in this episode.
I mean, I'm piecing it together in my mind, which I feel I shouldn't have to do, but I feel like maybe they just don't want any attention at all. And that would be fine. If they said that, I'm like, okay, fine, but like Alex and Kara, I'm like, they are trying to help you, you morons.
Even the woman at the end, this is just a precursor to them trying to get us to voluntarily register. You heard yourself use the word voluntarily, yeah. Right? Like, this isn't anything to worry about to me.
It's not some act where they make you register your, like, it's voluntary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now, Lena Luthor's little device, that's a little different.
Very different because its temperature fluctuates instantaneously.
So the way I like to look at some of this stuff is if you switch that to religion, would you be okay with it? Like, in our country, you're allowed to be any religion you want. If there was some device that, hey, we need you to touch this to prove what religion you are, like, people would be up in arms.
Well, there's an easier way to tell what religion somebody is. Just pull down their pants. I mean,
that only helps with some cases.
Mostly the males. When I say temperature fluctuates, when Kara wants to get out of, like, exposing that she's an alien,
yeah,
she uses her heat vision on the device,
right?
And it breaks, I guess. There's no, like, scar.
No, it doesn't break. That would make sense. It doesn't break. She uses her heat vision to change the programming to either make it always give a human positive, or she actually reversed it somehow to make it give aliens a positive. That means she must have used her X-ray vision on it instantly, seen what the issue was, and then used her heat vision, which is very impressive for someone who's never shown the slightest technical or engineering skills and has always had to go to win.
Well, it's like, I guess it couldn't have been heat vision. There's like a bit of a Twitter discussion during the episode. We both theorized it was X-ray vision related, because if that's heat vision, that would have been too hot to touch.
Right.
And Lena Luthor would be like, whoa, this thing's hot. Gotta blow my fingers. But, we did get what I would say the saving grace for this episode is freeze breath.
That's right. And we got double freeze breath. 2 scenes with freeze breath. Way too late in the episode, but still.
I mean, too little too late? Sure. It's nice to have, though, all the same.
Freeze breath is amazing. This is, just for those of you keeping track at home, which I know is everybody, 3 episodes in season 2, 3 episodes with freeze breath.
Right. And let's keep the trend going. Let's keep the streak alive. The super streak.
And
I wish I was talking about Streaky the Super Cat. Please make an appearance in this season.
Please. That's all we want. I did think it was interesting that this supposedly hotly contested Amnesty signing, we've already talked about how it was a small crowd, and we did mention that, yeah, that kind of makes sense if you're worried about there being an attack, but there weren't any protesters. Like, it's like the only people that showed up were people that were, like, for it.
The protesters don't want to get burned up by the mystery flame lady.
But neither should the supporters.
Well, I mean, it's the brave supporters are out there to, show their support for this alien amnesty,
right?
And it's part of their agenda, because they want people to voluntarily register. That's what they want.
That's right. Please, would you voluntarily expose yourself? No. All right, that's fine too. That's why it's voluntary.
The nefarious scheme of getting people to agree to do something.
The nefarious scheme of alien President Carter.
Right. And at first I was like, is she an alien, or does she just need lotion or something? That's just bad skin.
I'm guessing she's an alien.
Let's see. Who wasn't an alien in this? Honestly.
Alex.
We don't know. We do, but we
supposedly Maggie.
Well, the one thing that made me really not enjoy this episode is the search for Jeremiah happening still, or what?
That is very true. He's just like, back burner. Your adopted dad, my real dad, we know he's alive. Maybe heading up the biggest terrorist organization currently around.
Yeah, Cadmus just took a back seat.
Yeah, this episode was so removed. This episode I feel like this episode could have been plugged in anywhere.
Well, I had a feeling that this episode is one of those not really there to be a standout, really entertaining, just move some pieces along.
Right.
They built this bar set.
They introduced the president.
Yeah, they introduced the president.
Introduced Miss Martian.
This is why I'm thinking the bar set isn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And
plus, it was such a well put together set. Like that's obviously, we're going to see that bar a few more times.
Right, which is fine. But I feel like, okay, so we saw the trailer for next week's episode, which looks amazing.
Looks fantastic.
It looks like stuff I've seen in like every other superhero show, but whatever. The formula works, I guess.
And Roulette's always a great villain.
Who?
Roulette.
I did not piece that together at first.
They actually used the word roulette in there.
Didn't see it. I was tweeting.
It was a audio thing. You didn't see it. You heard it.
I was tweeting. Loudly tweeting.
So next week's episode is about Roulette running a fight club for aliens, which does look very entertaining.
Right. I mean, sure, we've seen this in Smallville. I'm pretty sure we saw it in Arrow at one time, probably. Maybe.
I don't remember if we've seen it in the Arrowverse. I know we've saw it in Smallville. I'm almost positive there was the New Adventures of
yes,
Lois and
Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
Thank you.
On ABC this fall.
On ABC,
like 20
this
years
fall,
ago.
I guess 20 years ago. Wow, 23 years ago.
23 years ago. Young Jeremy Bruner is excited and he watched the television.
Oh, I watch that show every week, despite the fact that now I can never get through the name.
You were so excited. New Adventures. Lois and Clark. New Adventures on. Turn on the TV.
The Superman. The Clark. Super Clark.
Super Clarks is on. Yeah, probably had a Fight Club episode then. Yeah.
Oh, so go. Let's go to the fire lady.
Okay, the fire lady.
So the fire lady that may or may not be an existing character. You'll let us know. The thing is I use fire. I have heat vision. I'm Supergirl. The first thing I'm gonna do is use heat vision.
She fights fire with fire.
That's a power. So let's go into the powers used. That's a power used inefficiently.
I would. The only thing I can think of is Kara's like, maybe my heat vision is just stronger than hers.
Maybe, but come on, you have freeze breath.
And you used it in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know about it. Clark Kent even said that's the cool power.
Yeah. So let's go. Powers used. She used super speed.
Super speed.
Flight.
Some flight, invulnerability.
The base 3 there.
Super strength?
Yeah, super strength for sure. Heat vision. I'm assuming X-ray vision.
Got some nice freeze breath action.
For sure, freeze breath.
We're being very spoiled with the freeze breath.
Oh, I love the freeze breath.
Things we don't normally see. Like I didn't notice any super hearing.
No, or super smell or anything.
Telescopic vision and nothing like that.
Well, telescopic vision maybe with the X-ray vision. We don't know because she had to assess that device. So,
that's borderline.
It's borderline.
Probably. I'll throw it in there.
Yeah.
That was efficient use of power.
That was very efficient.
Kind of makes up for the heat vision thing. I'm like, okay, that was a instinctive type of thing.
A very inefficient use of speed in this episode. Specifically, so she's supposed to be thinking she can move faster than bullets, all of this stuff.
Right.
She doesn't react to go to the president to try to save her during the first scene where they're throwing fireballs and he's coming off the plane.
She had to use her super strength to pick her jaw up from the
ground. I know. 3 fireballs get thrown before you even react. That to me was inefficient.
Not a good use of the super speed. And it's not just physical speed. She can think that quickly as well.
Right.
And she was just...
inefficient use of X-ray vision or telescopic vision for not being able to assess where they were coming from immediately.
Right, or keeping an ear out or something like that.
Right.
I really feel like these attacks from the president could have been easily prevented by not just Supergirl, by the DEO. This is the second attack. So the DEO, okay, say the first meeting, that was a spur of the moment thing.
Right.
Okay, fine. But the second attack, the DEO should have been all over that.
The DEO sent Alex, John Jones, and Maggie Sawyer joined them. They sent 2 agents.
Maybe they're just...
They were so convinced by Supergirl's xenophobia that there wasn't going to be a second attack that they didn't send anybody.
What's also funny that xenophobia was a big part of this episode, and Daxamites are apparently known to be xenophobic. So, kind of cool. They fit that in there.
Yeah, you just want to throw that stereotype in there? You're saying all Daxamites are xenophobic?
Hey, we have a saying on Earth that I can't repeat here. It sounded like a Harry Potter spell when Kara said it. I don't remember.
I like to think it translates to something completely innocent. Like, if they're from Daxam, watch out.
Watch out.
Just like I can't repeat it.
Don't trust a Daxamite.
I can't repeat it because it's too stupid and corny.
It's too stupid and corny and full of swears and slurs.
So what did you think this episode? Supes on or Supes off?
Okay, so when we say Supes on or Supes off, in case you don't know, is Supes on basically is that, in a nutshell, if you thought Supergirl was boring, did this change your mind?
If you thought Supergirl was just a clone of Superman, did this change your mind?
Right. It can mean a lot of things, like does it preserve the, I guess, character of Supergirl? Does it help or does it hurt? So, considering all of that, I'm going to say...
And I just like to point out one thing, because I know we have been critical of this episode. You can have a great episode that still supes off, and you can also have a poor episode that still supes on. But in this case, what did you think?
Going strictly by this criteria, I'm gonna have to go with Supes off, and I don't do that very often. I really don't. And I'm thinking, like, if you're watching this, even as a fan of Supergirl before, like, I'm not even worried about the people who are like, I'm going to give Supergirl a chance. I heard Superman was on this show. I don't think you would keep them or change them.
No.
So I kind of already know what to expect from them. But I'm thinking like existing fans are like, come on, Supergirl. Like, get it together, lady.
I can see that. So for me, I'm also giving it Supes Off. I think this might be our first ever double Supes Off.
Maybe. It's so rare that it doesn't happen that often. So when these times happen, we have to like take pause.
Yeah, but my Supes Off reason is different. My Supes Off reason is I almost feel like Supergirl was a secondary or background character throughout this episode.
It was very Alex heavy.
I feel like Supergirl wasn't even the focus. I feel like you could have almost removed Supergirl and still had this episode.
Yeah, unfortunately. And this is, again, goes back to a lot of pieces just being moved, like point A, got to get to point B, because we introduced Miss Martian. Fun. Right. Awesome. It gives John Jones more to do. But it's sort of just like, yeah, the show is called... And again, this is not what you want when you're counting... And this is if the CW is banking on this, which I guess we don't really know. But if you want to have Superman on there to attract new viewers...
You need to have a strong out-of-the-gate episode when he leaves.
And this is just poor placement.
It looks like next week's would have been a good one.
Yeah, and I really do think... you build all this up just to have Miss Martian come at the very end.
Right.
You can't do that in the opening minute, the cold open for the next episode.
Right.
John Jones walks into a bar or something. I really feel that this episode could have been wrapped up, and I don't think it would have took an entire episode.
No, this was a very filler episode. In fact, I'd like to point out one scene that was like 2 minutes almost, I feel. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was like 30 seconds, and I'm exaggerating. But I feel it was like at least a minute to 2 minutes of Alex and Maggie, when they first get introduced, arguing about jurisdiction. You know how overdone that is in shows? How just useless and filler that scene was? That scene did not need to exist at all.
Just pure filler. It was a filler freak of the week who didn't even get named. Like, we don't have... Like, I don't know. Typically, wouldn't Win name somebody, or wouldn't Cat would name somebody?
Yeah, normally Cat or Win would. James didn't name the person this time. Snapper didn't name him.
I really want James to try to name people, but they're all lame. So
Win should have named. Win probably did name her. Win probably is wowing all the people back at the DEO, and everyone's just like, "Man, Win, you're the greatest."
Like, he gives up some clever name, and the one they go with in the actual paper is James's idea, and it's like, Flame Lady terrorizes the president.
Flame Lady. So do you have anything else you want to say about this episode, or you want to move on to CW recap?
What else is there to say other than nah?
Other than we're excited for next week.
Yeah, next week. You haven't lost us. We're in it for the long haul, but next week I'm really excited about.
Okay, so let's go on to CW recap. This is where we just give our thoughts on any other CW DC shows that are going on.
Right.
So what'd you think of last week's either Flash, Arrow, or Legends?
I'm going to get through the bad first, and I'm going to go get... That means Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
You said it was the worst episode in the series.
I feel so, yeah.
I would have to go back and do a rewatch, and I know that's not going to happen anytime soon. I will say it's the worst CGI, and not just the Legends of Tomorrow, but possibly all of television, because
No, that's taking it too far. Well, it was bad, but it's not that. It wasn't that bad.
The super serum super Nazi looked atrocious.
It did. I feel just the reason I didn't like Legends was because I feel like Legends is already the semi-struggling show you have. And then you have an episode that points out how bad they are as a team.
And they shouldn't be. They're been active a year and a half.
Right.
As time-traveling adventurers.
Right. I guess it's supposed to show that they need a leader, which is all fine and great, but it fell flat for me.
I gotta say, I know the costumes sometimes look corny, and the JSA, they're from the 40s, so they kind of get a pass by looking dumb, but man, those JSA costumes look kind of lame.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Especially Dr. Midnight. Jeez.
Yeah, Vixen's looked fine, but that's just because they already have a Vixen costume.
Yeah, they already did.
So Arrow, I thought, was still really good. Arrow's been killing it this season.
Arrow has been such a pleasant surprise. We were on board with what Stephen Amell said at a recent con. He's like, hey, bear with us. He essentially said, and I'm not quoting verbatim, but he said, "Bear with us. We know about last season, but bear with us."
Yeah.
And hey, he was right. Arrow's killing it.
I will say one thing about this. What was the wrestler's name that was in this one?
Oh, Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes. I will say this. Apparently, they did not have a lot of confidence in his acting ability. He had like 3 lines in an episode in which he was probably on screen for over 10 minutes.
Yeah, and this is you can tell a lot of it was made before Cody Rhodes made his exit from the WWE. When he was in the WWE at the time, he was a character called Stardust, and that was the name of the new drug.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was really hoping that Stephen Amell would make another appearance in WWE because he wrestled a match live on pay-per-view with. It was against Cody Rhodes. It was part of a tag team match.
Oh, okay.
And Stephen Amell did fine, as far as celebrity guests do.
We didn't warn people we may be spoiling past wrestling.
Yes, we did. So I was really hoping maybe we'll get Stephen Amell back in the WWE, but he's buddies with Cody Rhodes, who's since left, so I don't know what's happening there.
But Arrow overall, very strong episode. Flash, I feel like this was the strongest episode of the season, but still weak for the Flash.
Like by default, the strongest episode, and I really feel because Harrison came back. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. And with that in mind, the Toms on the Flash, they are so good that when they're on there, it just reminds me, because I never think of the Flash as having bad acting. I always think of it not being like amazing, but I never think of it as being sort of bad. But like I feel like every scene with Tom Cavanaugh and every scene with Tom Felton, because I feel like both of them are such good actors that every time they're in a scene with other people, I'm reminded like, oh yeah, these people are just maybe average to maybe slightly above average. Like it just sort of...
It was like when we watched Smallville, and whenever Lionel had his scene, he was so amazing.
So good. To me, that's how Tom Cavanaugh is, and that's also how I felt about Tom Felton this season, was I just feel like almost every scene he's in, it's like, oh yeah, that's what acting is.
Yeah. Harry coming back really helped. It's just... To me, I'm like... Is Barry just not even going to try to fix the timeline?
Well, no, that was the whole... They established that in episode 2.
It's just not... It's dropped.
Because it was every time he goes back, he's making it worse. That was the whole thing with him and Mitch Leary.
Yeah.
That was their whole conversation. Like, you've done it. What you've done is done. You can't keep going back, or you just keep meddling more and more. So that was that whole conversation.
With that being said... Is the timeline that drastically different?
No, and that's the whole point. That's why they're not going back and doing it. Like, this is the universe now.
Huh. I guess they have their opportunities to change certain things, but I don't think they will.
No, like...
And that's the thing. I don't think the changes are drastic enough to really justify all of this. They didn't get along for a little bit, but now they're fine.
Yeah. I think it's fine. I mean, the one thing we now have Caitlin, who's developing her powers.
Which I think is... for the best, because honestly I like Caitlin Snow, but sometimes I wonder why she's there.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about tomorrow's episode. We are of course recording Monday night right after Supergirl aired, so tomorrow night is when the new episode of Flash comes on. I'm super excited because the Mirror Master is on there,
who me and John both wish was the season-long villain for this season.
I really, if not just Mirror Master,
at least the Rogues.
The Rogues.
I mean, Mirror Master alone, he has a mirror universe.
Mirror Master's one of those guys who, if he was smart with his power, should be in control of the Earth right now.
Oh, man.
He's one of those guys, like him and Firestorm, to just go around terrorizing the universe.
Firestorm, for sure. My God. Well, maybe not our current iteration of Firestorm, who's only used his transmutation powers, twice?
If that much.
Twice, I think, at the end of last season.
I was so excited when he finally transmuted something. And he's like, well, I'll forget about this forever. Anyway, I'll just be the Human Torch now forever. Gotta go.
So thank you all for sort of joining us in our CW recap. Let us know what you thought about what you think about the going-ons of the CW, either at supesonpodcast@gmail.com or tweet us. And I say us, but I mainly mean John, as he sort of does our Twitter at Supes On Podcast.
Also at Supes On Podcast on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. Just look up Supes On Podcast. We're on YouTube. And proud to announce we're on iHeartRadio.
Yeah, we're on iHeartRadio now. So for those of you listening on something other than iHeartRadio, and you're like, man, I just wish I could listen to this on iHeartRadio. Well, your wish has been granted.
That's right. Also on iTunes, please rate and review. However you listen to us, we appreciate it. Send us any feedback, questions, comments, suggestions, maybe outfit choices. I don't know.
And we did ask what people thought. Do you want to check Twitter real quick?
I will.
This is our almost forgetting that we asked for some Twitter responses. So fun little thing here at the end.
I am seeing an ad for Old Spice for the big chicken. And that's pretty much all I've seen so far. So anyway, thanks for all your feedback.
Thanks for all your feedback.
And we are not sponsored by Old Spice, unfortunately.
But if you want to send us stuff Old Spice, because you happen to be an Old Spice executive listening to this, give us a shout.
We are banking on this,
actually. Yes. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for Welcome to Earth. And next week we will be looking at Supergirl Season 2, Episode 4. All right. Thank you, everybody.